Welcome to Sinister Studies. My name is Kim, and I'm joined each week by my kiddo Ben, where we'll discuss all things sinister up to and including high school. As with all things sinister, listener discretion is always advised. Logan wanted to buy everything in the store today. The lady in front of us in line, because we were in line for 15 minutes, was like, "Oh my god, I would buy everything." Because he was looking at all the random shit that's on lined up, so you maybe buy it.
There's a caterpillar.
Why? Where were you?
A caterpillar.
There's a caterpillar.
They had those chopsticks, the shark heads on top. Dinosaurs also. Chicken nugget keychain.
Kitty sponge.
Yeah, they had a kitty sponge.
A what?
Kitty-shaped sponge.
You have a kitty-shaped kitty right there.
I know.
Yeah.
When are you going to do the Conjuring House?
Dude.
The Conjuring House
That
has
is a whole fucking...
Lots of people.
No, that is a whole thing. That is a soap opera, what's going on over there right now.
Oh, yeah.
She said she keeps her grass long so the grasshoppers have somewhere to live.
And she's completely unhinged. She went after Jason Hawes of Taps because he lent her some stuff, and then she put it in the barn, and his stuff got destroyed or something. And and she's so unhinged that the town revoked her business license.
No, they didn't. They kept it. I read the article.
She's not supposed to have people at her.
I read the article. It came out after she got the DUI.
No. This is recently, within the last week.
Oh.
Her business license was expiring as of December 1st. And they're not renewing it. So she has all these reservations, which she already spent the money because she's not right in the head. And she's still letting them come. So it's only a matter of time before they go and arrest her.
They won't arrest her. They'll find her for having people over. Who moved it today?
He moves himself. You know what I saw online today? They have not only Snoop on a stoop, but they have his Martha Stewart counterpart. So you can have... Yes! All right, so what's that tea you were talking about? You said you had some tea to drop.
First of all, I have a question. First of all, why is this elf all up in Santa's business?
I do. You know what? I sat down and I was like, what the fuck? But the elf is seriously under Santa's coat. I'm not sure what the elf is doing.
Whoa, we have something to tell Mrs. Claus. What? What is going on here?
Pretty sure Logan set these up.
Logan, do you know
what did you do to this elf?
I didn't do anything to that one.
Why is it all up in Santa's business?
No.
No, because why is it like this? Bro.
I didn't put it there. I put those there. I didn't put that there. I didn't take out the boxes. Those are off.
So elf is absolutely violating Santa.
Santa doesn't seem to mind. I don't know what to say. So who did this to the elf? Was it you that put the elf up in Santa's business?
No.
Somebody put the elf up in Santa's business.
Maybe it was sitting here and then it fell back.
He was really up in Santa's business.
He was really up in Santa's business.
All right, close that most of the way, please.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's this tea? What's this tea you were saving?
There may be a couple of people in my class who think that you're directly involved with the mob now. Sorry.
What? Why? Why would they think that? I'm not, but okay. Just for the record, I'm not.
Yeah. Guys.
I'd have a lot nicer car if I was directly involved with the mob, just so everyone's on.
I don't think we'd be doing a podcast.
They wouldn't allow us.
But we were talking about the mom because we have to do these projects about the 1920s because we're reading The Great Gatsby, and she always has to have a bonus project for everything. You can't just do something.
Okay, so how does this correlate to me being the mom?
Orange did a project Mr. T-shirt and basketball shorts in December.
Okay.
His project, his presentation was about the mob.
Okay.
And then there was this girl in our class, and she's like, I thought the mob was, like, just made up. Like, I thought it wasn't real. Like, I thought it was a conspiracy theory. It was like,
okay.
And we were all like, no. And she's like, and then the teacher starts talking about how, like, like, the mob is still kind of around, and, like, in our area, in our state, the mob had a presence.
Okay. Still working on how this correlates to me. So what words came out of your mouth?
I didn't say. I was like, because I said to her, I was like, because she's still like, I like, the mob's real, like, so I'm like, oh, my mom knew a hitman, and she was like, what? And then the teacher hears, she repeats it loud for everybody in the class. I don't know exactly what she said, but Regina in Mean Girls,
okay,
she comes up to me. She's like, your mom's in the mob? And I'm like, what?
Oh, God. Oh, that's amazing. I know, Papa. I know.
So, yeah.
Pippi's my underling.
Oh.
She's the underboss.
Yeah.
No, she's not. She's not smart enough.
She's not smart enough. She's the
She get caught right away.
She's a little dumb. She's a little dumb. It's okay.
I mean, unless you're talking about field mice, then Dad calls me the godmother of field mice. I'm gonna kill you.
Seb's your hitman.
Your mother. Your mother's mother.
Seb
your children.
Seb is your hitman. He killed.
He does. Yes, he did.
He got those 2 mice.
He is a little ninja. He works covertly. He stalks them and kills them for me. Presents me their heads. See?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. He's too small to get the horse's head, but he got the mouse's head. Oh,
also, Spotify app came out.
Okay. Can it beat the fact that everybody in your school now thinks I'm
not everybody, just in my English class.
Yeah. That's how fucking rumors start.
Okay, and everybody knows about your weed shoes. So,
that was a mishap, and I was looking at a thumbnail, and I thought they were.
She thought they were
maple leaves.
Yeah. She buys the boots. She puts them on. She realizes, oh, this looks like a particular other plant.
This was not the same plant as I thought it was. Let's just leave it at that.
Maple marijuana. I mean, close. I didn't know they made boots with fucking weed on them. That's a little silly. Oh, and I have a dog in my lap. Hi, Piper. My number one artist for, I think, the second year in a row. I don't know. Out of hurt. As always, number 2 artist. Mwah. I don't know. Chaperone, number 4. I want it on record, that I was a Chaperone fan before Chaperone was, like, famous. I listened to Hot to Go before everybody else.
You are now officially on record. Now officially on record.
Yes. Yes. Chat.
Okay, so what's number 1?
Spotify Wrapped was ass this year. If you're listening to this and you care about Spotify Wrapped and you got a Spotify Wrapped, I know you agree with me. It was ass. It was mid. And it just felt so underwhelming. Swap Piper.
Okay, so what was number one?
I said.
Which one was it? You said Chaperone. Was it Chaperone?
No, you want to see my screenshot
Sure, you took a
from
screenshot.
the Wrapped? Yes. These are my top artists.
Okay.
I've seen 2 of them live twice. Working on number 1. They did tour last year, but they're like allergic to New England, I think. They're British, so I think they're still like bitter about the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Maybe next time. Chaperone, I'm accepting that's never going to happen. I'm not built to withstand a Ticketmaster queue. And I am not built for those prices. So. But, yeah. All right.
I'm gonna lock in, Peppa. I'm gonna lock in. We're a little late. It's Saturday. We haven't recorded yet.
Unfortunately, my top song was that song that's like. This is embarrassing. Hold up.
How the fuck is that your top song? That was popular like 12, 15 years ago?
Okay. And when was the last time you listened to music made in the last 10 years, Mom?
I think recently.
You see? You don't even know. When was the last time you listened to music made in the 2020s?
In the 2020s?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say... Hold on. Let me verify this fact first. Let me fact check.
I know this album was released in 2012. I'm aware. I don't know. Like, I listened to it on loop in, like, January, February. Second top song was, I think, Hot to Go. I think. H-O-T-T-O-G-O. You can take me hot to go. H-O-T-T-O-G-O. Did I not take a screenshot of my actual thing? On Amazon Music. I don't want to talk about my Amazon Music. My top song was Hot to Go. So my top song was Hot to Go on Amazon Music, and my second top song was Hot to Go on Spotify. I don't feel like I listened to it that much, but maybe I did. Perhaps. Perchance.
Damn it!
What? You trying to figure out what
2019.
Man.
Nope. No.
What?
I have the new Eminem album. That came out this year.
That doesn't count.
Why?
Because.
Why?
Eminem hasn't been relevant like that in forever. You're listening to old irrelevant music. I am too. It's fine. But my second top song dropped last year. My third top song dropped last year. My fourth this year. Well, maybe last year, very end of last year. My fifth. Let's not talk about that. Wait, actually, I don't even know. My fifth, 2014. But other than that, they were all dropped in the 2020s.
When was this made? I don't know.
And my top artists are all, like, active artists. Or battle tapes, I don't know what they're doing. They dropped an album this decade, it's fine. They all have.
Oh, you know what? I have listened to something in the 2020s. So there.
That's not Eminem?
That's not Eminem.
What is it?
Five Finger Death Punch.
Okay, I'll take it.
That is actually my number 2 song, which is Welcome to the Circus.
What's your number 1? Do I want to know?
I've been listening to a lot of angry music.
What is it?
The Way I Am by Eminem. And then my number 3 song is I'm Not Okay. I promise. So yes, that sums up my year. Number 4 is Till I Collapse.
I feel like,
And number 5 is I Disappear.
well,
So yeah, that's apparently the type of year I've been having.
my top 3 songs on Amazon Music were, does it only tell you your top 3?
No, it tells you.
Or your top 5? Because it's not showing me my top 5 right now. Oh, my Lord, Piper.
All right, it's a little early. We're not even. Okay, we are ways in, but oh Jesus,
What?
we are ways in. It's time to lock in. It's time to lock.
How much it weighs in?
Yeah. I'm locking. We're gonna do an unsolved case today.
Okay.
Unsolved.
But let's lock in.
Yeah, let's. Piper's even relocated because she's mad because I won't just sit there and pet her. So
She's mad because our lives still revolve around her.
Yeah. I don't think you're gonna like it, Piper. I don't think you're gonna like it at all.
Like what?
Case.
The case?
No, we're gonna go in the way back machine before I was born. Yes, like my music. We're gonna go into the way back music. We're gonna go back to the 70s, which I do have stuff in my playlist from back then. But we are
The 70s? What year?
I don't know what.
No, but like the case.
1978.
You're gonna get close.
Well, it was in February of 1970.
Okay.
So, on February 24th, 1978, a group of friends left Yuba County, California, which is located north of Sacramento and borders on both the Tahoe. What are you doing, Piper? You're going to have to go in there with Dad if you don't stop.
She's gonna bang on the door if we do that. Tahoe.
So, Yuba County borders on both the Tahoe National Forest and the Plumas National Forest, and they were going to see their favorite basketball team play in Chico, which is less than an hour drive.
Uh-huh.
The friends were excited and had made this journey multiple times together, so nobody was concerned when they set out on this night. The boys had big plans for the very next day. They would be playing in a basketball tournament of their very own, and they took their games super seriously, especially this game, because the winners would get an all-expense-paid trip to LA. There would be no shenanigans for the boys that night as a result.
Do y'all hear her right now?
The group would set out for the game in a 1969 Mercury Montego owned by one of the boys. And everybody thought everything was fine and dandy until one mom woke up in the middle of the night to find that her son had not arrived home yet. So she called another mom, and their sons weren't home yet either, and so on and so forth. So in the early morning hours of February 25th, the families would call the sheriff's office to file a missing persons report for each of the missing boys. But the police weren't willing to open a handful of missing persons reports just yet. Why, you ask? Because these boys weren't really boys. They were just referred to as boys by their families.
So how old
and going forward, the media. They were 32-year-old Ted Weir.
A lot older than I was expecting.
The owner of the Mercury, 30-year-old Jack Madruga, 29-year-old Big Bill Sterling, 25-year-old Daria Mathias, and 24-year-old Jackie Hewitt. Are you okay over there?
She looks at me with so much love in her eyes. Hold up.
What the authorities failed to take into account was that 4 of these men had intellectual disabilities. They were all part of a program called Gateway for Individuals with Disabilities, and their basketball team Well, the Gateway Gators were scheduled to play for a Special Olympics tournament.
So important stuff.
4 out of the 5 were pretty much characterized as retarded. 3 of them had official diagnosis of mental retardation, which again was an actual medical diagnosis at the time. Obviously, it is not any longer.
Mom doesn't just go around calling people retarded. For the record.
Jack's family would say that he was undiagnosed, but he was slow, and he had served in the Army during Vietnam, although he stayed stateside. Gary was a veteran with a checkered past who had been treated for schizophrenia. Jack, Bill, and Ted all seemed to be on the spectrum to a various degree of severity. Police would eventually file the missing persons reports and would go to Chico to see if they would be able to find any leads on the missing men. Piper's going to start catapulting.
Actually, it's a trebuchet.
Jesus. They were able
Piper's going to start trebuchet.
They were able to confirm that the men had made it to the game. A local reporter had been in attendance and had remembered them in their Gateway Gators shirts. And a local convenience store clerk distinctly remembered them coming to the store after the game to stock up on junk food for the ride home. And why would she clearly remember them? Because they came in 5 minutes before closing, and she was trying to leave. As somebody who worked in retail, you remember these assholes. Not these assholes in general. Like specifically, one that comes to mind is one Christmas Eve, some guy, we had the gate rolled, one door locked, one gate is locked, and we were at the mall, by the way, mall jewelry store. One gate is locked. The other gate was a quarter of the way down. We were that close to 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and this guy scoots under, and
Scoots under is crazy.
Scoots under, and then tries to be like, yo, can't you give me a better discount than whatever the sale price was?
So entitled. Damn.
So I was like, no, I'm sorry, that's the price. No, you need the sale. You need this sale. You're going to close soon. My response to this kid was, it's 6:15 on Christmas Eve. Seems to me like you need this way more than I do. He ended up purchasing it. But I was not playing.
Why, what was it?
It was some sort of, I remember the area of the store, so it was some sort of diamond fashion jewelry. So it was literally probably something that was like $150. Like a heart necklace or some bullshit like that.
Going into a jewelry store and you're expecting shit to be cheap like that?
I mean, some stuff is cheap.
But like,
if it wasn't in the catalog, I wasn't giving it to him for a sale price because he was postponing my leave for Christmas Eve.
On Christmas Eve? Like, you couldn't have come in and gotten it sooner? Because presumably that's a gift.
I would assume so, unless bro's wearing diamond accent jewelry. Anywho, so yes, we remember those people who come in right before closing. One woman in a nearby town claims that she may have seen them in a red truck, saying one of the men looked a lot like Jackie, but that was unsubstantiated. There was nothing. The men had seemingly disappeared without a trace. On February 28th, the Montego was found in Butte County, although the men would have had to pass the general vicinity on their way home. Their car was found 70 miles east of where they should have been. They went into the mountains of the Plumas National Forest. The road was unpaved and definitely had deep winter wear. The road was uneven and rutted. It is not a road that Jack would have attempted to drive his pristine car on. He was very meticulous about the car. Nobody else was allowed to drive his car. It had to remain in a certain state. It was always clean. It was maintenance records. He knew, like, he would not have taken his baby up on an unpaved mountain road in the middle of the night.
Are you about to crash out, Piper? She might be.
The car was found on the snow line, seemingly stuck in the snow. However, when they looked closer, they could see that the car was in working order. Although they did not have the keys for it, they were able to hotwire it. At which point they saw that the car had a quarter of a tank of gas, so it would have kept the men warm for a while. And there were 5 big, strong men who definitely would have been able to work together to get the car unstuck. It wasn't stuck. So it was definitely a situation that these men could have overcome. The car contained food wrappers from their late night stop at the convenience store and a number of maps in the glove compartment of the surrounding area, which most of the men in the car would have been able to easily navigate. The discovery of the car brought with it a new urgency. Most of the men had decided against bringing their coats or wearing boots. After all, they were just going from the car to the gym, which is a train of thought that we still use every day, even when it's snowing and 30 degrees out like it has been. Sensing the urgency, Plumas, Yuba, and Butte County worked together to search the area using manpower, horsepower, helicopters, and dogs. But a storm quickly rolled through, dumping a ton of snow on the area, creating huge drifts and covering any tracks or leads. So the search was called off after just a few days. The area was so bad that the snowcats used in the search were having issues, and at one point they almost lost some of the searchers as a result.
Damn. Piper, you have to lay on my boob.
So anyway, the conditions were bad enough that actual search and rescue people were getting lost.
How are you going? How are you getting lost in search and rescue? Bitch, you're finding.
To continue would have put
the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
It's true, but that's how bad the weather was. To continue would have put anyone that was out in the woods in jeopardy. So they made the difficult decision to hold the search until spring when it started to thaw. The families were perplexed. Why in the world would their sons have gone so far off course? Like we said, they'd made the drive to Chico multiple times before. And even though most of them were on the spectrum.
Me too. For serious, guys.
They've been there, like I said, multiple times before. They knew the drive. They had plans for the next day that they were excited for. To the point where they had already pre-laid out their clothes for the next day.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they didn't have a plan in their mind. And as we know, plans are meant to be kept. And especially when they're hyperfixated on that, they would not have deviated from their plan. Because they wanted to go to that tournament. So they knew their way. And they did bring a number of maps with them just in case. Plus, even without the maps, they were definitely traveling into the mountains, which was a very different terrain than the valley area that the men were from. They would have known they were driving up into the mountains, especially when they saw snow in the distance. Most of the men would have known that they were going in the wrong direction based on that fact alone. Then a man named Joseph Shones came forward to say that he'd seen the men on the road that night. His tale is interesting, to say the least. He began by telling investigators that he'd been at the bar, which at some point he decided to drive his Volkswagen Bug into the mountains to check it out in preparation for a family outing. Now, I know you know what Volkswagen Bugs look like because people still drive the vintage Volkswagen Bugs.
Of course. There's this place in town, this house that has like 10 of them.
Now, do you think those Volkswagen Bugs could traverse rutted, snowy mountain roads?
I mean, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Probably not.
Definitely not.
I mean, anything's possible. If you
A
push your
brand
mind
new
to it.
Volkswagen Bug could not
Definitely
traverse mountain roads like that. He says that he got stuck up there a little past where the Montego was later found, and his car had gotten stuck in the snow. He said he tried to dislodge the car on his own, but had to stop when he began having severe chest pains. So he returned to the car to stay warm and hope for the best. At one point, he heard voices, and when he looked, he saw a group of men in the headlights, so he laid on his horn to get their attention, at which point he said that they killed their headlights and everything was quiet.
Oh.
He would eventually go on to make it to the hospital where he was admitted, and someone would go back up to the mountain before authorities found the Montego to retrieve his car. Although police wanted to further question him, his doctors recommended against it, saying that that reliving the event could put him at risk for another heart attack. And police had good reason to want to question him. First, why in the fuck would he drive up into the mountains at night to check out the conditions? And why would he do that in a Volkswagen Bug, which is definitely not equipped for that type of journey?
Yeah.
Think of what would have happened if I had tried to take the Fiat
Not the Fiat.
onto a worn, potholed, snow-covered road. Shit, what happened?
Oh, yeah.
The Fiat sucked monkey balls. It was terrible. It was fucking terrible. That's essentially what he did.
Kind of insane.
And mine was a modern car, which sucked. But at least the Fiat would have been able to keep me warm should the inevitable happen and I get stuck. Unlike the Bug, which is, due to its construction, would have only produced heat if the car was moving. And how in the hell did somebody not only get back up the road and around the Montego, and then be able to dislodge the Bug and successfully maneuver it around the stuck, abandoned car? Shones at first would tell investigators that his wife was able to pull this feat off by herself. His story would change as time went on. Another time, he said that at one point he woke up and saw a truck parked behind the Montego, and not only saw the men in the road, but a woman too. And then this story would eventually change to the men, a woman, and a baby. All chilling in the road in the middle of the night in the forest.
Peculiar.
Shones would say that he doesn't remember exactly what he said. He just had a heart attack, but locals would tell investigators that Shones was not only the town drunk, but he was also a pathological liar as well. He liked to tell tall tales, and he loved when those tall tales put him in the spotlight.
So, what?
You know that's not plugged in, right?
I know. I know. I'm aware.
So, like it usually does, winter ended and spring came. Things started to warm up, but snow doesn't melt as quickly in the mountains, especially the snowdrift. Think about the pile of snow in the Home Depot parking lot that lingers on well into May. And that pile has been out in the open in direct sunlight with a shit ton of road salt mixed in.
Yep.
But the families felt that there wasn't much urgency put into finding the missing men. It had been months at this point, and it was almost like the searchers had resigned themselves that the men were gone. all of a sudden, things started coming together very quickly. On June 4th, a small group of men who were at least 12 miles from where the car had been found and were not out searching for the missing men stopped at an old Forest Service camp just to stretch their legs and whatnot, when the youngest in the group, a teenager, wandered off to explore, and he was punched in the face by the smell of decomposition.
Cute.
He initially thought that it was probably a dead animal or some shit because that's what normal people think. So he continued on his merry way and peeked into a broken window of a forest station trailer. And this poor kid was scarred for life.
Oh.
Inside, just under the window, he would see the body of a man laying tucked in and most definitely deceased. There's a difference between how you pull your blankets up on yourself and how you get tucked in.
Okay.
He would run to tell the adults, who would then confirm his story. The group went to the nearest phone and called authorities. Police would find Ted Weir locked inside the trailer, dead, and tucked in with 8 sheets.
8 is crazy.
He had lost about half his body weight and multiple toes due to frostbite. Ted, who had always been clean-shaving, had a beard which they estimated was at least 8 weeks worth of growth, but possibly upwards of 12.
Damn.
So we're talking February
months.
The end of February, March, April, May, June. So if they had been out there, if he had died at 12 weeks, if his hair stopped growing at 12 weeks, he had only been dead for a matter of a couple of weeks at this point.
I mean, Zoe.
They also found a number of C rations cans opened and empty, meaning that they had been eating something, but only a few had been opened with the specific Army issue can opener that was meant for the task, meaning that only Gary Mathias and Jack Madruga would have been able to easily use, as both had served in the Army. Outside, they also found a storage locker that had been locked and untouched, which had enough food inside to keep the 5 men alive for almost a year. There were also 2 full propane tanks that had not been touched or used at all.
Weird.
Yes and no.
What do you mean?
These men, most of them, were rule followers.
Uh-huh.
So they would have only gone so far because they didn't want to get in trouble or cross any additional lines than what they already had. So they broke into the trailer, and they did steal some of the food that they found.
They didn't
break into another trailer. They didn't want to break into the storage cabinet to find out what was inside to see if it possibly could have helped their situation. There were signs in the trailer that a candle may have been lit, but nothing else had been burned for heat. There were books and blankets in the trailer. They also found multiple toes in the trailer, all lost to frostbite. Gary's shoes were found inside the trailer, and not Ted's. And Ted had larger feet than Gary. Ted was in the trailer by himself. It's important to note that this site was outside of their initial search radius, as it was deemed almost impossible that the men had traversed the distance on foot in those specific weather conditions, especially when they were unprepared for the trek at hand. None of them were dressed for it. All of them had sneakers or some sort of shoe that was not a boot on.
Yeah.
Nobody had coats. Nobody was dressed in layers. The following day, not far from the trailer, searchers found the remains of best friends Bill and Jack. Only the skeletal remains were found of Bill, and Jack's were in only slightly better shape. Both had been eaten by animals, but it was determined that they had most likely died of. They had both most likely died prior by frostbite and or hypothermia. Jackie's father was hell-bent on finding his son, especially in light of the 3 bodies they'd already found. Investigators tried to discourage him from joining the effort, but he was not going to be discouraged. And sadly, days later, Jackie's father would find his son's spine and various other bones. Obviously, there was reporters on the scene. He threatened a reporter because he did not want his wife to see that on the news.
Yeah.
He was determined to find all of his son's remains and would return to the scene, and he would find his son's skull downhill from the rest of his body. Now, I didn't include it, but it's kind of a fucked up story about how Jackie's father searched the area that he searched. There was a group of men out in the woods searching. They'd all stopped to eat lunch, but a bunch of them were just drinking beers, bullshitting. And he was annoyed that these men seriously were just out there for shits and giggles. They didn't seem like they wanted to find their son, his son. And then there was a guy hiking in the woods who he noticed because the guy in the woods kicked his dog.
Oh.
And was like fighting with the dog. And so obviously...
Why would you fight with the dog?
So this guy yells up to him, "Hey, what are you doing? Basically, why the fuck are you beating the dog?"
Yeah.
And he said he's got a deer bone and he won't give it up. So they left, and his dad thought about it and went back there that next day. It was not a deer bone; it was a human femur.
Oh.
Yeah. So I can't even begin to imagine what.
Yeah, I don't want to.
I can't even begin to.
Oh, no.
Investigators would continue to search for Gary, but would only find some Forest Service blankets and a rusted flashlight about a quarter of a mile away. Based on his shoes being in the trailer, they assume that Gary, who had very likely had frostbite, took Ted's larger shoes when he made an attempt to find help because his feet would have swollen immensely as a result of the frostbite. There is a conjecture that Jackie had been with Gary and Ted in the trailer, and that when Gary failed to return and Ted had passed, Jackie had made the decision to go out on his own to find help, but not before tucking his friend in first. Maybe best friends Jack and Bill had gone together to find help and had either succumbed to the harsh conditions or misjudged the snowdrift and died as a result, or both. There are people who say that Gary may have been the direct or indirect cause of their situation. Maybe he had been off his meds and had some sort of psychological break and was able to convince the others that they needed to go on this side quest on their way home. Although this sounds unlikely, as Jack's family had said, he was very protective over his car and would never put it in jeopardy. Plus, he would never, ever allow anyone else to drive it. Yeah. Another thought is that maybe Gary, who had a criminal record, had pissed some people off somewhere, somehow, and they'd forced the group up the mountain and they'd run into the forest for protection. One woman would later tell investigators that someone had told her that a man had told them that he had been present when Gary was thrown into a lake that night.
Oh.
The lake had been searched, but the search had to be cut short due to the temperature of the lake and the conditions at the time. There's also reports that people have seen Gary since the disappearance, although none of them have really been substantiated. One woman was convinced that she saw Gary in her family's bar that they owned. And when she went to get somebody to verify it, he had run out. So none of the reports of Gary have been substantiated, and given his history, authorities felt that Gary would have been without his meds for so long that he'd have shown up somewhere like a jail or a hospital. Because he has a record of when he's off his meds, he becomes obviously unstable, does weird shit. At one point, there's a result that he walked 500 miles. Walked 500 miles with no money. And he ate
500 miles?
Yeah, dog food and scraps that he found outside because they had brought him somewhere and he was like, no, thank you, and just walked home. So they are not denying that he has some sort of survival skills, although in this situation, it's very unlikely that he would have made it out without somebody noticing. There are so many questions that remain. Although their deaths were deemed natural deaths, what put them in such a precarious situation in the first place? Why did they end up in the mountains despite knowing their way? How did they make it so far in sneakers and light outerwear? They walked at least 12 miles. At least 12 miles.
Yeah, how did they make it there without...
Why didn't they bust open the storage locker?
Yeah.
Why didn't they use the damn propane or use the books and the furniture in the trailer to build a fire? 2 of them had survival training. And is Gary at the bottom of the lake? Is he roaming free or hidden by the forest himself? There's speculation that there's some dense brush in the area that if he had fallen for whatever reason, if he landed in the brush, it would have quickly grown over him and made it impossible for searchers to find him.
So what the fuck?
You really had nothing to say today.
Yeah. So yeah, what the hell? Really, like.
So yeah, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of shitty shit that went on here. Oh no, Pippa, is the cat beating you up?
I don't have any specific questions. I just have questions, like...
Why?
Who, what, when, where, why? To what extent, how often, like...
Because... And I think a lot of it was, at the time, given their diagnosis of retardation, they were kind of forgotten. Logan was like, what the fuck? I think they were kind of just blown off, like they couldn't have possibly survived. But at least 2 of them had survival skills. One of them was a self-taught expert at map reading. So something had to have happened.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we'll never know. And that's got to be like a tough thing for the families.
Yeah, never getting closure on something insane like that. Like, what the fuck?
Because, I mean, back then, like I said, with their diagnosis, like they would have just immediately thought the worst. But knowing that we're just digging through the pots and pans while we're recording. But knowing what we know about people on the spectrum, people that are really far on the spectrum, they may not be able to. At least one of the men.
Can you close this door? Y'all are being loud as hell. Can you close the door, please? Pretty please. Okay, well, I will then.
Okay.
Okay.
So there is the fact that one of the men, truly, his family would say, had no fucking common sense. Like, he could not get a license. He had to have things spelled out for him. He probably wouldn't have been able to survive on his own, but he wasn't on his own. And even though he had these two guys that had served in the military with survival training, he also had two guys that, although they were on the spectrum for sure, they could definitely navigate life. So for them to just kind of give up as quickly as they did after the initial snowstorm seemed, I don't know, very lackluster. Peculiar. And the Forest Service never volunteered the information that the trailer even existed. So even though some people knew that the trailer existed, there were multiple departments trying to work together to find them. So these other departments would not know that the trailer existed. So then we get to the issue with different departments not sharing information freely. I don't know. I just think it was a whole clusterfuck.
Yeah.
The whole search and rescue was a clusterfuck. And Shones either did something to them, in my opinion, or he just made up a whole lot of false information, which took resources away from the actual search for them.
He did something. Like, either way, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah. He either did something to those men, even if it was just scare the shit out of them, because clearly he was right behind them because their car was in front of his car.
Yeah.
So either he lured them up into the mountain for some reason, or he's just so full of shit and wanted to be the center of attention that he used this to his advantage, even though it wasn't to his advantage, because he looked shady as fuck.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that was fucked up and evil, really. What was that? Like, I don't even... That was a lot. Sorry. That was a lot.
And obviously, most of these we're only scratching the surface because there's only so much I can put in. So that was like the most important stuff, but there are so many theories about how people have a lot of theories about how Gary may have had something to do with it. I don't know why he would lure his bros up into the mountains. That doesn't make sense to me. Schizophrenic or not.
I mean, he was medicated.
He was medicated, but there was some speculation that maybe he didn't take his medication for a couple of days leading up to the basketball game because the medications for that condition generally make you sluggish.
But, I don't know. Either way, I don't think... I don't know. I don't think the automatic assumption should be the schizophrenic person did it because they have schizophrenia.
No, I completely agree.
Like, that's That's kind of weird, guys. Like, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Again, it was the 70s.
But still, like,
And
yeah.
3 out of 5 of these men had an official diagnosis of retardation. I don't think society as a whole had very much faith in them. Like, their abilities. And that's what caused them just to kind of give up.
But, like, I don't know. Are there still people to this day who think that Gary did something?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I think we're past that.
Like there's some theories that Gary had previously known people that lived in the general vicinity of the Plumas National Forest, and maybe he talked him into stopping at these random people's houses, which is completely off the beaten track. But I don't think that.
Or like Dad.
I mean, he'd have to be a really good talker to get, especially when they're hyper fixated on where they need to be and why. It would not be an easy feat to convince them to do something else.
Especially, like, autistic people.
Yeah.
Like, you tell me, like, we're doing one thing, and then if you tell me again, we're doing something else, or you try to convince me,
it's not an easy feat.
I will crash out.
It's
certifiably, I will crash out.
It's not. No, it is not. It is not fun. It is not something you do.
Like, I don't know. Does not go over well with autistic people, so I don't believe that.
Yeah, especially with multiple together in the same mindset.
With important shit to be doing tomorrow. Like, they gotta get home and sleep because they got important shit going on.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I truly think that definitely something shady happened. Something caused them to have to go up into the forest. We just don't know what it is. I did want to tell everybody that I did try my tiramisu bones coffee today.
You did?
I love it. I went online and I wrote a review immediately after my first cup. I may have had about 30 ounces of it. It was delicious. It wasn't too chocolatey, in my opinion. It was very good. It was delicious. I didn't get the second order in yet.
Okay,
I did not.
I sure hope I know if you got the second order in, because
you gotta wrap that.
Bow on it.
I did also like to preemptively let everybody know that we're going to be releasing one more episode before the holidays.
Only one?
Well, this one's going to come out on the 9th. And then next week's is going to come out
16th?
On the 16th. And then we're going to take a couple weeks off because the week before Christmas is always a huge clusterfuck. And the week between Christmas and New Year's is one big brain fart. So,
I mean, yeah.
We hope everybody joins us again next week.
Is this a festive episode?
It's actually not.
Aw. No Holly Jolly Christmas. I mean, it would be Holly Jolly if we're talking about it.
I will look and see what I can find. I gotta write it tomorrow while I bake cookies. Because I'm festive as fuck and I'm baking Christmas cookies tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So I will look to see if I can find something a little lighter. And Christmassy in nature. So I will try to do that. So please do all the things.
Yeah.
You know what to do. We don't
follow social media, like, subscribe,
tell your friends.
Yeah.
And try not to change our autistic friends' plans last minute. That'd be great too.
Yeah.
It's a PSA for everybody.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Yeah. chat. If you have autism, I don't know. Send me your Spotify maps. Send the account. Send the Sister Studies account. Your Spotify maps. It's gonna be her that goes through it, but I'll make her suffer. Make her suffer by sending her your Spotify maps. Adios.